Hello everyone, welcome to the Manolo Show. This is our very first episode, so we'll chit-chat a little bit about us really quick to get to know us a little bit, and then we'll get into today's episode. My name is Matt.
Hi, I'm Jason.
We're from Manolo, software development company. Myself, I came from a mechanical engineering background, started working for one of the big three in the Detroit, Michigan area, tier 1, tier 2 auto supplier. And while I was there, I was working on my mechanical engineering related tasks, while I was tasked also to work on the company website. Never did a website before, really didn't know what I was doing, but I kind of found myself almost a new career. I was going in early, staying late when I was working on the website. I just kind of taught myself a whole new career, whole new hobby, turned that hobby into a business. Started to get more involved with building larger, complex applications. That's where I feel like I shine a little bit, when things get complex, when things get crazy, when there's a lot of moving parts that go together in a software platform. So, I have a lovely family at home, lovely kids, 3 little kids, beautiful wife. Love the outdoors, like everyone else in Michigan, probably.
It's a requirement here.
So it's a little bit about me.
Okay. I guess I could go next. So I'm Jason. So I have been, building like little dinky websites pretty much since high school. I think I've told you this story before, but like my first website was a love letter to a girl I liked. Shout out to you if you're out there. But yes, and it's always been like a little hobby in the back of my mind that I've kind of played with. Professionally, though, it's only been recently that I've started getting into software development as a professional career choice. I worked in telecommunications, frontline on the retail side. I worked in the operations department, in training, and I was probably my biggest parts of that is I was a subject matter expert for a lot of projects. So software building projects where I was a tester and like I don't know what you would call it, but it's like almost like the software ambassador, where you learn it and then you go out and you teach it, and you're like the champion of that software for the company. So that was towards the end of my career, and that side of things, that was pretty much where I was at, and that was my big strength. So a lot of those skills I bring to here. I can talk to people, so that's great, and a camera, and make it seem like I'm talking to a person. So I guess that's what I bring immediately, right?
That's right. Awesome.
Yeah, so that's me.
Yeah, glad to work with you.
I too have a family and kids.
That you do.
And a wife. I don't know if she knows the website story about the crush.
Well, she's gonna know now.
She's gonna know, well, maybe.
Maybe she was the one.
Oh, she was not. I didn't know her yet.
Oh, okay.
Different high schools,
she became
different
the one
worlds.
later in life.
Oh, obviously, yeah.
That's funny.
Sarah. Anyway,
awesome.
Let's talk stuff.
So today's episode is introduction to no code, low code, and custom software development. And also the benefits of each of the approaches. As you might know, we come from a software development company. We mainly focus on custom software development. However, we do get involved in no code and low code application builds as well. So we're here to discuss what those three different approaches are, the benefits of them, and potentially why you might want to choose one of them, which we might go into a little bit. So why this topic? Why are we going to talk about this, right? Everybody, we hear this a lot. We run into situations like this with new clients that we potentially bring on or start working with, right? Is you don't want to have a pile of custom written code that's buggy, doesn't function. You also don't want to be, 3 months into stitching together a low-code solution that's too constraining, isn't allowing your business to ultimately scale. So want to make sure we talk about these 3 topics, the world of the 3, the approaches, and the benefits.
Yeah, it's so important to know where you're going to go before you go there, right? Mm-hmm. So like know what you want, figure out the tool that's going to work best for what you want, and then go from there, instead of just assuming that you need one or that, or making your decision based on like one of the benefits of doing that type of approach. So it's like you got to know all of your options before you can really decide on the option that you want to take, or you're just setting yourself up for disaster.
Right.
Gross.
Right. Don't want disasters or grossness.
Yeah.
So the first topic we'll get into, right? Ultimately, no code, low code, custom software, they all kind of fall under the umbrella of software development, right? So like, what is software development? And at a very high level, it's just the process of building a program through design, through building, through testing, through launch, implementation, maintenance. All that kind of goes into the overarching idea of what software development is. It includes planning, it includes the coding in itself, and coding is either custom, low code, no code. And also software plays a critical role in modern businesses today, right? We all use it all around us, right? We're using software to record this episode. We're using multiple different platforms to record this episode. We're using cameras, multiple cameras. Those are running programs.
You're using software to view or listen to what we're doing right now.
Absolutely.
Obviously. Yeah. Or to have been notified that we exist. So
right.
Yeah, I mean, it's all over.
If you're watching on YouTube, no code platform in YouTube, right? You don't have to code a video player every time you want to watch a video. It's there, it's ready. You just play the video, right? Some other things you might, modern businesses might employ in software development or automating tasks. Others might be to improve communication and collaboration, right? We all use tools within our business or, our friend groups to communicate, right? There's text messages, there's message apps, part of social platforms, there's
email,
there's internal communications within a company like Slack, right?
Yeah.
There's all of that. Before, you would walk over to the water cooler, or you would, see each other at lunch or dinner, and you talk about, right, or pick up the phone and call.
Share files through the sneaker net. Google
also,
that.
Right. Also, streamlining business processes through lead generation and sales processes and contract negotiations and automated workflows, right? Low code, no code, and custom software comes into play to help with those processes. Also providing business insights, right? Everybody uses Google Analytics to track how their website's doing, but there's a ton of other insight tools, Tableau, Adobe Metrics, that give you data into how your business is doing, tracking your scorecards. And also enhancing customer experiences. So we all think of customer experiences as in, from a frame of reference of a website, right? Does my website have a great user experience, right? It's a e-commerce store, it better, right? If your e-commerce website does not have a good user experience, hopefully you're dealing with that now. If not, contact us, we'll help you. Also on your mobile apps, right? Mobile is a different experience than on the web or from a desktop. Someone sitting at a computer, right? Buttons need to be large enough for people to tap on them. Also, you think about customer experience, you think accessibility, right? Screen readers, people hitting tab on their keyboard to get to certain links, or can a screen reader effectively read your website for someone who needs their screen reader, right?
Right.
So that's software development. It's modern businesses use it all the time, all around. Modern businesses seek all these different platforms and tools and software to enhance and scale their company.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So let's kind of go into those three different things: the no code, the low code, custom software development. Like let's get some examples, pros, cons, why you'd use them, that sort of thing. So like the first one, no code, is probably what everybody is familiar with, because Matt, as you mentioned earlier, like everybody uses that as a tool. You're watching a no code solution right now, playing our video or playing our audio. So that's pretty obvious. You've got a text message app on your phone that sends text messages to friends. If you use Twitter itself is a no code solution. Applications that connect to Twitter, like Hootsuite, for example, no code solutions to your things. So lots of like real everyday examples, but things you might not think of or might not know of, as well as, like you had mentioned automation before. Tools like Zapier, If This Then That, Airtable, Microsoft Power Apps. Those automate your business needs and practices. There's project management apps like Trello, Jira, Asana, Notion. We use Notion to do everything that we do. It's our note taker. It's like our internal tracking of most projects. It's like our repository of business information that we have, data, client information, that sort of thing. So that's used every day. And then website builders are a no-code solution too. Like, you know, you can't watch a YouTube video without seeing an advertisement for Squarespace.
Right. Or you can't watch a Super Bowl without seeing a Squarespace ad.
Right. Adam Driver, websites, building websites, websites. Adam Driver, building Adam Driver.
Yeah.
Adam Driver, if you'd like to connect, that'd be great. But yeah, Wix is another example. Webflow is another example, kind of along those lines. So the big pro to using these no-code solutions is obviously cost and development time. A lot of these services are free, unless you're like a business user. You're not paying for Gmail. You're not paying for YouTube with anything but your eyeballs and ads. So it's most of those are free. They're very good on time because they're built already. You don't have to go out and find somebody to build it. Setup is really simple. So it's just like a clear, easy choice to use a no-code solution for a lot of things.
Right. You got Google Sheets too. That's a big one.
Oh yeah. Google's, like, people build their businesses around Google Sheets, for better or for worse, depending on who you ask.
Yeah, and of course, like you said, it's free.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, like, when you're first starting out, especially like startups, like, why wouldn't you go with the free option when you can? And then the pro obviously is it's free. The con is, like, scalability is a big problem with Google Sheets, and connecting, where's the source of truth, who's using what Google Sheet at what time, and that whole thing can just be a big nightmare.
Right.
There are other cons, of course, like there's the lack of flexibility and limited customization. You are bound by what that particular app can do. And if they haven't built an integration, if they haven't built like a way to customize it or the exact feature that you need, you're not going to be able to do the thing that you might want to do with that app.
Or be okay with the solution that they have as part of their tool. Right.
You're very platform dependent when you make this part of your business too. We've had a recent experience, we won't name names, but a company changed their pricing structure such that it was like 4 times what we were paying for before, and the features didn't change. Like, there was no increased benefit they were receiving. So I get it. It was a business decision that they had to make, maybe to stay afloat or something, but like, we had been using it and liking it, and it was great, but it wasn't worth 4 times the cost. And those are unforeseen things with no-code solutions that you are kind of stuck with.
Right.
You're not able to go to that company and say, well, why don't you treat me special?
Right.
And keep me at that low price. That's not going to happen.
Right.
Another thing is you have no control over the code. This is kind of on the customization side. You don't get to do anything with it. You can't have somebody go in and make a custom thing unless that's built into the solution, and then it's more of a low-code solution than a no-code solution.
Right.
And then finally, like, there's security concerns. You don't own the processes. You don't own what's happening behind the scenes. You don't know what they're doing with your data, with your information, your secure information, your secrets, that sort of thing. So, it's kind of problems with no code. Low code, just kind of stepping into that, very similar, just a little more advanced. Probably more customization is involved with low code solutions. These are your big things though, like your big kind of enterprise sometimes applications. Salesforce, Microsoft Power Apps are a big thing. That we mentioned Power Apps before, but there's customization involved with Power Apps that allows you to use code or coding concepts to expand what it can do. Same with Salesforce. Salesforce Lightning lets you do that sort of a thing. But there are other builders out there that are low code, like Appian, Mendix, QuickBase, Flutterflow, which can let you make an app but still has a coding component to it.
Mm-hmm.
Zoho Creator, KissFlow, Retool is another popular one where you basically have to, like, there's no coding necessarily, but there's still data connections that you need to figure out. There's SQL commands that you might have to think about, how do I pull the right data at the right time? Those are all concerns. And like, if you don't have the technical expertise in that, maybe you don't know what any of that means and how to use it. So you've got this big tool, but you don't know how to use it, or don't know that core component of it.
Yeah, when you make the shift from no code to low code, you have to have some type of understanding of the software development lifecycle. You need to know a little bit about coding. You need to know a little bit about performance. You need to know a little bit about design, user experience. You need to know a little bit about that, right? You don't need to become an expert in everything, but once you make that jump from no code to low code, it's very important that you keep certain aspects in mind. We brought up the Retool, Jason brought up Retool, or other tools out there that allow you to jump into a code editor to maybe code in a SQL statement to jump into a database, or a GraphQL, listing request to get some data, right? You want to make sure you're, not opening up yourself to some type of, oh, my app's going to crash if I don't, pull back a certain amount, or should I put this API key here or not?
Yeah.
Right? Like, those are things.
How many times should I make this call? Yeah. How much data should I bring back with that call? Limit 5,500 million is going to break your app.
Right. That might take about 10 minutes to load.
Yeah. Maybe. Or it might just crash.
If the app stores allow it to go in, though.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Apple might see it and
flag it.
Google or Android doesn't care.
Yeah.
They're like,
they'll let it through.
They're like,
they'll let it through. Oh, well.
Check.
Next.
Yeah. So like on a pro-con scale, it's very similar to no code. Like the costs are lower. The ease of use is there. It's not as difficult as a custom solution, obviously, to kind of do. Cons, very similar to low code or no code as well. Limited customization. The customization that you do have is usually revolving around code, so you'd have to code those things or build those things yourself. If the integration that you want isn't already built into that, you would need to code that. So if you use a specific API that Retool doesn't have an integration for, you have to figure out how to make that integration yourself. So that's kind of like a big con of that. And then the complexity with a low code solution is much higher than with a no code solution for those exact reasons. So if you don't have the expertise in how to do it, the platform isn't going to do it for you. You need to find someone either in your company or externally that can do those types of things. And if you don't know that ahead of time, if you're just going into it thinking, oh, I can connect this data point and that data point, yeah, you can connect it. How do you connect it? What's the process for that?
Right, or the platform or the low-code platform might even make it available in its user interface to do it. Some we see are pretty intuitive. Others aren't, but then you need to know what these specific icons do and the steps and processes to get, an integration built, which, some of these tools actually do a really good job. Some make it difficult.
Yeah, but even like a lot of the times you need a base understanding of how data is presented, like how those tables are coming in and what, table versus row and cells and all that type of thing. Like if you don't have that understanding of not only how data is presented, but how your data is presented, even if you have somebody make those connections for you, it can be difficult if you're not really aware of how it all works. Yeah. So cons obviously is pretty similar to the low code or the no code stuff. So that's low code, no code, very similar, very different types of implementations. Big contrast between that and custom software though. And I think I'll let you talk about that because that's some pretty complex stuff.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's right in the name, it's custom. It's not using any type of, off the shelf, whether it be a no code or low code. It is blank slate. It is from the ground up. It is a build of a process or a procedure or a program or a website or an app or a desktop app or a tool or some AI engine, right? It is from ground up written. Every line of code is exactly what you need, exactly what you're looking for. Design, UI, UX comes first. What actually comes first is discovery. And all of these, right? If we get into the software development lifecycle real quick, no code, low code, custom software development, all of them go through, phases known as, first one's discovery, then you go into design, you go into development, which is actually building it. You go into testing, right? You go into launch, deploy it, and then you go into maintenance, right? Maintaining this thing, making optimizations to it over time. Obviously, with no code, discovery phase is pretty quick. Hey, I need to create an Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet of some data. Cool. What tool am I going to use? Google Sheets, great, or Microsoft Excel, whatever.
Yeah.
Great. Open up the browser, go to it, or open up the app on your computer. Bam, start laying it out. Discovery, very minimal. Design, UX, none of that is needed in that regard.
Already there.
Already there. Development, no development needed, just start typing. But when we get into custom software development, we're going to need time to talk discovery. We need to know, you need to know, we need to ask questions. We need to understand all the different features, right? During discovery, we need to know who's going to be using the application.
A whole game plan
developing,
has to be set up.
Everything is done, and everything from setting up the project, getting the stakeholders together, understanding who's going to be using the application. Those are the user personas. Knowing who's going to be on the team, knowing how long the project's going to take, right? Building a roadmap like we talked about, understanding what the minimum viable product is, the MVP. All that is handled in discovery. Typically, when you come out of a discovery phase, everybody, all the stakeholders, everybody knows exactly how long the project's going to take, how much it's going to cost, who's on the team, what the KPIs are going to be, what are going to be tracking, what's going to be tested, when are we going to launch, what's our launch process, what's our marketing strategy that might come into play after the app launches. Everything's there. Then we jump into design, right? Design UX. We'll typically use a no-code solution in Figma to build out what the application is going to look like, whether it's a mobile app, desktop app, website, web app, whatever. We use a very wonderful tool called Figma. It's in the browser. It's also in an installed desktop app itself. All of our team members can be in there at the same exact time working on stuff. We can have outside freelancers logged in working on stuff. Great, amazing, no-code tool. Maybe it is a low-code tool too. I'm not sure how they call themselves.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you can certainly get different.
You can
what
get
is
code
it?
out of
They
it.
call packages.
Plugins?
You can build plugins for it. So certainly there's a low-code aspect if Figma doesn't do something what you're looking to do. So
right.
There's a blurry line between no-code and low-code if you haven't already gotten that kind of impression.
Right.
Some of them are both. Some of them blur that line very, very well. There's a huge gradient.
Mm-hmm.
So.
So we can, once we come out of design, UI, UX, where we're building user experience, right? Then we jump into actually coding and building it, and that's from the ground up. That's every line of code, right? There's packages and libraries that we utilize based on the project, based on the budget, based on the needs, the timeline, that can help us get to the end goal quicker. And then you jump into testing while we're developing our code, while we're locally developing on our computers. That code is being tested. Anytime we deploy code to a server, that code goes through another testing phase that's known as DevOps or DevSecOps, development security operations. And then it launches, and then we get into optimizations and maintaining the code, after that. So some examples of some custom software development projects or things that we could talk about what we've worked on. We're built in the process of building a very pretty substantially large platform for they call themselves an event company, but they're in the Midwest region. They're a youth hockey tournament company. So we're in the process of building them some tools to one being a website, a few other being internal tools to allow them to facilitate these tournaments publicly to the web, allow people to register for tournaments, allow teams to put in their rosters, administer waivers, everything, allow parents to get in there. allow managers to manage their teams, and so on. So, uh, yeah, maybe there would be a low code tool or some type of no code tool. I know they use Google Sheets internally, but they really wanted to take it the next step to build themselves, a custom solution.
Yeah, I think that their customer facing one, definitely a custom solution was
Yep.
the way to go with that. Their internal tool could have gone either way. I feel
Sure.
like we probably could have used a low code solution for that. I think it was better for us to do a custom solution just because it helped us learn more about the data that we were using for the front end.
Yep.
So
And
at
learn
least
more about their business too.
yeah. So I mean, without us having to have our hands so deep into that, I don't know if we would have had as good of a grasp.
Mm-hmm.
I guess so. It was a benefit for us, which is a benefit for the
Right.
for the customer, obviously. But
Right.
Yeah, that's a fun little project.
Right. No, I don't know if you want to talk about it, but the app we built for a restaurant.
Yeah. So we kind of a more local business that we had worked with. Great relationship with them, but we built basically a food ordering app for them. So users could go on this app and get a view of all of their different menus and selections and groups and that sort of thing. So it had a big display component to it. It had to look real nice.
Mm-hmm.
Had to pull data from multiple sources for each one of those things. So
Yep.
like they kept their actual food information in a platform called Toast, and then we had all of their descriptions and their images and more detailed information about each of their products in a CMS somewhere.
Yeah.
So
we were CMS contentful.
Yeah, we were pulling from both places and putting them into the front of the app, and then we had a server that was running that was kind of managing all of those connections at one time and caching it and making it more quick on the draw to get that information into the front end. So that was really cool. There was also an ordering aspect to it as well. So Toast is a pretty good platform where ordering is concerned, but there are some things that they don't offer out of the box that we had to kind of expand upon. So like group ordering and tabbed ordering and we can talk, that could be a whole episode talking about what we did on that project. But like none of that could have been done the way that we wanted it to be done, the way the client wanted it to be done with a low code solution. That had to be custom. There just was not going to be an easy solution for that. So
that and the client wanted full control over the code.
Yeah.
Right? And because of all the different API connections and other platforms it was integrated with, we needed full control over security. Right. So security was always a big deal. On
payments were being handled and passed between, not to get too deep into it, but payment information was going to multiple sources in a very interesting route and way. And we had, obviously there's a security concern. Every time data moves from one source to another, there's the potential for potential for attack. So though that's a huge concern.
Right. Vaulting credit cards and gateways. That was definitely a
that's another source that we had to deal with, another vendor, another bit of data and information and calls to make.
Right. And sometimes when a custom software platform presents itself, it's because a business could potentially be unique and not be not kind of be that cookie cutter type business like real estate or finance or legal or I don't know, automotive, right, where there's plenty of solutions that are out there ready and waiting. We built a pretty large, a very large, substantial custom platform for a telecom company to basically track all of their jobs. Imagine they have crews that go all over the United States that climb cell towers and take thousands of photos and a lot of notes. Whether a storm has passed through the area and the cell tower was affected or construction was just done on the tower, that needs to be inspected, or there's a new standard out in the industry and towers need to be assessed on if they pass that standard or not. These crews go all over the country, they climb these towers, they do what they need to, and then there's people in the office that gather all of that data, all of those photos, all of those notes and assemble reports. verify that everything on the tower was checked off correctly, and then that report gets sent out to the client. So our custom solution that we built for them helps them track all of their jobs. They've got 2 different views they look at: list view, more like a dashboard, and then they got the map view where they can see pins all over the map where all their jobs are, and they're color coordinated based on the crews. Just a lot of stuff that helps everybody throughout the company stay up to date, toe to toe with each other, because sometimes these jobs have to cross over day by day by day by day.
Yeah.
They track their bids through the platform. They do time tracking through the platform. It's a little intranet piece. So they got employee profiles on there. There's scorecards for the tower climbers. There's everything within this platform. They use it. Everybody in the company uses it. It's a great tool. Another reason, another important aspect when jumping to a custom solution is a company like that might not find a no-code solution or a low-code solution that's just exactly matches what they're looking for. They might be constrained in the way that they track bids, or they might be constrained in the way that they track crews around the country, or budgets, or time people are spending traveling from tower to tower. So
you could find 50 different tools that do a lot of those things separately, but to especially when you get to like executive level leadership, they need those things all in one place.
Yep.
They're not going to go to 50 different software platforms to find this data, that data, this data, that data. No, and we wouldn't, right? And this is kind of along the Google Sheets thing as well. Like, where's the source of truth?
Right.
And especially at the executive level, they don't have time
right.
to be digging for things. Yes, they pay people to do that for them, but that's the whole point of the custom software, is to bring it all into one place so that they have it right there. And I mean, it's not only the executive level that helps, right? Like anyone who touches the business, multiple parts of the business, obviously, having a custom solution there is really just making their lives easy.
Right. Another solution we could talk about is where there are pieces about a business that might appear to be unique or are connected to multiple different platforms, or maybe even like one platform. A very large solution we built for a museum on the east side of the country. Beautiful design site. It was actually designed by a design agency, an experience agency. It was really good. We got involved to build the technology behind the actually build the website, web app, if you will, and then build the technology that interacts the website with the CRM that the museum was using at the time. So the CRM was kind of specific to museums. It offered tickets. It offered a way to do memberships. It offered a way to see exhibitions. And the front end, the website that we built, the web app that we built alongside the design agency, needed to interactively connect to that CRM, right? So when people were wanting to become a member, right, they would go to a page that's that same design, look and feel that they just saw on a previous page, and we're pulling membership data out of a CRM and allowing people to register right then and there without having to leave the site or go to leave and go to the actual CRM to go do it. So that's we get involved in situations like that, and that CRM might have offered their own websites, right? But sometimes when platforms like that offer websites, those websites typically never solve the user experience, or they look terrible, or they're clunky, or they're slow. So that's
or they just look different, right?
Or they just look different.
Especially with this client, like the aesthetic is the whole point. They're an art museum. Their whole thing needs to look exactly the same. Their branding is very important.
Billboards, their social media profiles, their business cards. It was all consistent.
If you have the final key component, the pay me part of the whole experience look different or seem different, especially when it's going to be a radical way, because it's like that site is such a specific design, and then you move over to some third party thing, suddenly that would turn me off. That would make me not or think twice about clicking that button. Safety concerns. Is this a real thing? Did I get hacked?
Am I going to exactly. Am I going to a web page and I'm about to put my credit card information to that I absolutely should not. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Because plenty of those traps are out there, and that's what
Yeah.
they look like. So it's
Yeah.
like that's a red flag, and any internet-minded brain nowadays has
Right.
that red flag. Fun fact about that project: that's some of the first work that I did for Manolo.
Yeah.
Was on that.
Yep.
It's a special place in my heart.
That's
I just
right.
hit the microphone. That really sucks.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Oh well, they'll get over it.
Yeah.
So those are just some just to give you some examples of some custom, like why companies would want to jump to or at least reach in the bag for a custom solution. Hopefully we've allowed you to get a good understanding there. Some pros, which we kind of dug into a little bit, right? You've got full access to the code. We have full access to the code. It's your code that we have access to, right? So every line of code can be looked at from, first and foremost from a performance and security standpoint. Because we have full access to the code doesn't mean the security concerns go away, right? Security concerns are always there, but now we have full control over what's going on with API keys, with not exposing specific code to the public, right?
Yeah. That's a real good point, because that makes you in control of those things.
Yep.
If some new way of attack comes out, hackers start to do something different, and there's a vulnerability out there. When you own the code, when you're the ones that created it, or you're the ones that are managing that code, you have the ability to fix that.
Mm-hmm.
If you get into a low code situation, like think of WordPress. WordPress is infamous for this. You are basically bound by whatever plugin developer does, whatever their thought is, whatever their timeline is for fixing that and making that work without that vulnerability being in there.
Yep.
That can be a real bad place to be in a business where you've got a third-party tool that uses a third-party tool, and you have to rely on all of that to fix your...
Would that be the sixth party tool?
Would it be? I don't know how
Maybe.
that works.
Or the third to the second degree? Maybe. We'll have to get a
Is it exponential? Is it?
We'll have to get a mathematician let us know how we can...
Let us know in the comments.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. And then, of course, there's... We can call them cons, maybe they're myths, right? But, the cost and timing are the things that we talk about a lot, right? Of course, the custom projects take much longer, right? Yes, that means more cost, right? Because there's more time involved. But cost really isn't that big of a deal if your return on investment is 10 times what the cost is going to be.
Right.
If the cost nowhere even meets what the return on investment is going to be, that's a problem. You probably shouldn't jump to custom software at that point, right? Of course, the cost is too high because you never expect to make that money back, or that investment back. But if you know you're going to make that investment back fairly quickly or within a little bit of time, the cost really isn't a problem. Now it becomes an investment into your business. And then the timing could also, come into play as a con, right? But the better we all do a good job in discovery and understanding what the roadmap is and identifying who's on the team from a project management, or we're doing agile, who the scrum master is, who the product owner or product managers are, as long as that project is being met each week with a weekly status and everyone's involved and everybody knows what's going on, the project should take as long as everybody expects it to take.
Yeah.
Right? We're not going to identify in discovery that a project's going to take 6 months, right? Or 3 months, and we're launching in week 3. Like, that's not going to happen. Or we're launching 24 months later. Like that, it doesn't happen. Obviously, whoever did that discovery phase, something was broken in that discovery phase that it turned out to be that way. But expectations are usually set in discovery on investment and timing. So those are pros and cons, benefits, custom software development. We talked low code, no code, what they are, examples, pros and cons, benefits. We'd love to hear anybody's feedback or any questions anybody has on those three. It's like we said before in the very beginning of this, the whole why on this episode, right? The whole reason of understanding these three is so that you, the business owner or manager, director at a business, you and your team, or with our team, or you alone, you decide, right? You do the due diligence to understand, is this a no-code route we go? Is this a low-code route we go? Or is this a custom route we go? And it's very important you make that right decision, like we said before, if you go the custom route, as long as you're working with a good development team, you shouldn't have this issue, but you don't want to be sitting on a pile of code in 6 months ready to launch and it is not performant. There's a lot of unused code that's in there, or it's buggy, it doesn't function, or you've went the low code route, right? And you've been able to stitch together a few APIs, but now you're kind of handcuffed because you want to do this other thing. And like Jason said earlier, it's not part of the platform. So you really want to make sure you do that due diligence in the very beginning. It's extremely important, so that you can start and end with whichever 3 of the approaches that you and your team decide on.
Yeah, I think probably one of the bigger takeaways, or the bigger pieces of advice that we could get, is to not let time and cost really determine or be your primary factor in determining which way to go. Because if it is, you're always going to choose a low code or no code solution. Because obviously the time and the cost on that is going to be significantly less than with a custom solution. Mm-hmm. But all those other factors that we have talked about today really need to come into play. You almost have to have a separate conversation. Like, you can have your time and cost conversation, and then all of the other things need to be talked about so you can compare the two together.
Right.
Because again, time and costs, are you going to choose something that costs $5 and takes you 3 minutes to do? Or are you going to, put the investment into it of time and money and get really the product, the meat that you really need out of it? So
knowing the ROI you're going after.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, you did a great job of just emphasizing, like, you need to know what you're going after, and then you need to make that cost benefit analysis along with a separate, like, feature analysis, process analysis, do the due diligence. And that's a lot of what discovery does. Mm-hmm. Like, that's why discovery is so important, is because you can figure all of these things out in that phase. So we talked a lot about the pros and cons of things today in this episode. I think next episode we're going to be talking about maybe how you can make that decision, when it makes sense to do a custom software solution. We kind of touched on that, but maybe we can go into a little more depth and a little more detail on that. So stay tuned to the next episode for that.
And thank everybody. Thank you, everybody. Thanks to everyone. How do we want to say this?
Thank you for listening and watching today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening. If you're listening on podcasts or video, thank you for watching. Yeah. Awesome. And look forward to any suggestions or feedback that we have on this episode or any future episodes that we have.
Yeah, cool. Take it easy.